Good evening, folks. Hello, welcome in. Thanks for your patience. Hello to everybody in the room. Hello to everybody on Zoom. I know we can't see each other. I guess for everybody in the room, there's like 25 people on Zoom. And for everybody on Zoom, I'm going to say 20 people in the room. Let's call it that. So we've got a nice group of neighbors here. Thanks for working with us as we continue to iron out our technology side of things and our meeting location. So if you've been paying attention, we've been moving around a good amount. We hopefully have found some consistent homes back in the schools now, so we can have a regular schedule as well as a regular like tech setup we're familiar with and can easily take care of. So thanks for bearing with us on that, and hopefully we just continue to improve that moving forward. So we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 7:08 p.m. This is the February.
Put the volume off of this other one.
Okay.
I'm going to just go ahead and mute there. This is the February general meeting of the St. John's Neighborhood Association. We have a very packed agenda tonight. So forgive me for being the annoying person who like sets timers and has to like interject like I'm a debate moderator with the like your time is up. But we have a lot to get through and to take care of. So very quickly though, there are live translated captions available on Zoom. So if you prefer to consume this meeting in any other language than English, that is an option to do on there. And if you know anybody who prefers to or has English is not their first language, we have automated captions there that you can activate on Zoom. So please let everybody know to tune in there if that is helpful for them. Also, and if you signed in the room, thank you. If you're on Zoom, if you could put your full first and last name in the chat for our meeting minutes, and also change your name in Zoom. We need that for the record, and it's very simple here at SJNA voting eligibility. Basically, if you live in St. John's or Cathedral Park, you can vote. You're a member. Congrats. This is your induction ceremony if this is your first meeting. And that's it. And it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter rent, own, houseless, everybody who lives in the neighborhood in St. John's and Cathedral Park, this side of the cut, is a member and can vote. Also, if you don't, but you own property in the neighborhood, a business, or do work at a nonprofit that does a significant amount of work in St. John's, you are also a member and you can also vote this evening. So we will keep that in mind for any votes that we undertake this evening. And we will signal when it is time to either raise your hand in Zoom or not. We do a lot of votes by unanimous consent. So if we will ask for anybody who opposes to raise their hand. And if there is opposition, we'll take a roll call vote, but otherwise we'll move things along in that manner. So thank you again for being here and for listening to my little blurb there. So the first order of business is always the most fun, approving the meeting minutes for previous meetings. We have November and January to approve. We have sent these out in the newsletter a week ago. We sent these out in the reminder email. So there has been opportunity to review these and to see if they are in fact accurate. So we're not going to scroll through line by line on these. We're going to call for any amendments, and then we're going to take a vote in the interest of moving along for time. I did put the November minutes in the chat, and I'll put the January minutes in the chat as well, and we'll toss them up in the room. We'll zoom in real close, as much as we can zoom. And please call out if there are any changes. We'll leave about a minute for it, and then we will look for a motion.
Yes, there is.
Great. Go ahead, Bernie.
There's no indication at the beginning of where the meeting was at. We need to put where the meeting was held at. basically under minutes, general meeting Monday, November 11th, 2024, just say held at blank, 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 wherever it was held at.
All right, November was at Blue House Fitness, and January was at
Okay.
Red Sea Church.
Okay, the second thing is under old business, October general meeting minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's instead of saying for approval, it needs to say that they were approved.
Great.
Okay. Otherwise, it gives the impression that we haven't done anything with them, that they're up for approval. That's all I have since I wasn't there. So
Thanks, Bernie. All right. Anybody else in the room or on Zoom? All right. Do I have a motion to approve? Anybody want to make a motion to approve the November general meeting minutes?
Anyone can make a motion.
That is true.
I would love to approve.
Great. Ashley makes the motion to approve. Is there a second on the? Paul seconds. Beat you to it. Be ready for the next one. Paul seconds. We're going to do it again by unanimous consent. So if you're opposed to approving the meeting minutes, raise your hand either on Zoom or in the room. No hands. Great. November is approved. Would anybody like to motion to approve the January meeting minutes? No. Anybody motion to approve January?
You did.
same thing there in regards to not having the location indicated. So it needs to say Red Sea Community Church.
That should be added in there. Yeah. So Karina, you motioned to approve the January minutes. Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
I was at the January meeting.
You were at the January meeting. Okay,
He didn't list my name.
there we go. Thanks, Brooklyn. Is there a second to the motion to approve? Joe seconds. Thank you. Anybody opposed to the approval? Raise your hand. Great. January is approved. We're moving right along. Now, the first item of business for the evening, we have Amy Beth here from Representative Travis Nelson's office to discuss three bills Representative Nelson has presented for this session. If you want to come on up. He's presented many more than these three bills. But these are the like really hyper local and specific bills. So here to discuss and here to also keep it really, really simple. So again, in the interest of time, here I'm going to share my screen. The letter of support for each of these that we are going to consider that's it. It is very short so that there's not a debate over language around these, like this support. It is questions and debate around the bill, and then we either support it or we don't. And that's it. Very simple and straightforward. Yes or no on the support of it. And it is okay to not support it. That's totally fine. We can vote yay or nay. So as you see here, express support for the bill and a brief in one line about what it does. And that's it. So for now, I'm going to turn it over to Amy Beth, and I'm going to also share my screen for those on Zoom to bring up the one pager about each of these bills. Which one do you want to talk about first?
This one, because it's the easiest.
The emergency route. What's the deal? Welcome, Amy Beth.
Thank you for having me. So Amy Beth Altenhofen, my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the chief of staff for State Representative Travis Nelson. I've worked for House District 44 since 2016, so I'm in my 9th session. Representative Nelson so far has introduced, as of tomorrow, 51 bills, but I'm not going to talk to you about all of those. We're just going to talk about 3 that are some district priorities. So you all are probably familiar with the Peninsula emergency route situation. A lot of the stuff I took from Donna Cohen's information.
Is on Zoom.
Oh,
so-
hi, Donna. So we have, it is House Bill 2749. It is allocating $5 million to the city of Portland to get to 30% design. This number is important because once we get to 30% design, it opens up federal grants, state grants, other opportunities to address the Columbia Bridge. As you may know, the bridge over Lombard is a railroad bridge. If you've ever tried to get the railroad to do something, you probably failed. So getting them to do anything is really difficult. So we decided, you know, working with PBOT would be the best option to at least get one route out of the peninsula. So this bill is in the Joint Transportation Committee. They are a very busy committee this session. They are working on the transportation package. But this bill would not be part of that package. It would be a standalone bill. The chairs of that committee are Representative Susan McLean and then Senator Gorsuch. Representative Nelson and I have met with McLean. She has agreed to have a hearing on this bill. We don't have any dates yet. But since it's a joint committee, it has a little bit different timelines than just House or Senate committees. So we have a little bit of time on this one. But then once it passes out of the joint committee, then it does go to Ways and Means. So we will need Ways and Means to allocate that $5 million to the bill to pass it. And then once it passes out Ways and Means, it goes to the House and then the Senate towards the end of session.
So it'll be a little while.
So it'll be a little
Session
while,
goes until
yes.
early June?
Until the end of June.
End of June.
Yes.
So this will be a little bit of a prolonged journey that we're on.
Yeah, I think we can have a public hearing sooner.
Mhm.
I just don't know if we'll have one as soon as some of the other bills, but
Any questions? Are there any in the Zoom chat or?
No.
Okay, any questions? Yes, Brittany?
yes. Yeah, so when we have, so I said that the chair said that she would have a hearing. There'll be a public hearing. And we'll know a little bit in advance. So we will let everybody know. If you don't follow Representative Nelson on social media or get his newsletter, please do that. I will also be communicating to RJ and other folks, hey, committee's going to be on this day, come testify.
Yeah, the question was if there would be time for public feedback, not just, well, you know, through the neighborhood association support. And that ultimately would probably be even more impactful if we have a lot of people reaching out individually in addition to this, so.
Yeah, and you can, when we have a hearing, there is 48 hours after the hearing to submit written testimony. So if you can't make it to Salem, you can still submit written testimony, and you can do virtual testifying. So you don't have to drive to Salem because it's a very long drive from here.
One more question in the room, yeah?
So this time are there federal dollars earmarked already? Because I guess my concern is like right now, the federal budgetary department is not being funded, and in fact, so like, is this
Sorry, just to repeat, the question was basically like, will this $5 million even matter, especially in the current sort of budgetary climate at the federal level? Or is there existing monies?
That is a little bit above my knowledge of the bill. However, we've been told by City of Portland that getting to that 30% design is really important. And it would also help us get more local match dollars from the City of Portland. It might be one of those things, we get to 30% design, there's not federal funds for another 3 or 4 years, but then there is, but we're at least further along in the process than we are right now. Is our hope for the bill.
Yeah, and Donna, we have like 30 seconds for a comment from you there, and then we can revisit later on in the agenda as well around this.
Okay, if we have time later, I do want to let people know how, as a community, we need to
Yeah.
approach the hearings and all that. So,
Yes,
okay,
yeah.
I'll look forward to that later. Thank you, Amy Beth.
Thank you.
Yes, Donna will have a couple of minutes there to talk about her efforts to organize around this. And so we'll visit that. So there's no further questions. So is anybody willing to make a motion to approve a letter of support? Brooklyn motions to approve a letter of support. Jenny? Judy Williams. And we're gonna do the same thing. If you are opposed, please raise your hand and then we can do a roll call vote. But otherwise, we will pass the letter of support unanimously.
Sorry, clarification. This is a letter of support for the transportation.
This is for the bill for $5 million for the bridge. Right. Strictly for this $5 million.
So will you clarify, is this going to go now so that we're encouraging the hearing?
Yes. The point of this would be to go
Okay.
now and to send the letter, encourage for a hearing, and
Great.
then we would continue communication with neighbors to do individual outreach from here on out, and also have it officially on the record that we support for any, continued outreach in the future.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. So I did not see any hands raised. I'm going to leave it open for a few more seconds here. Okay. The letter of support for the bridge over Columbia, funding for bridge over Columbia Boulevard passes. Now we are going to, would you like to do bottle drop or PR?
We can do either.
You have it in your hand. We'll do the
Oh,
bottle
yeah,
drop.
bottle drop. Yes.
Um,
They all look the same. It's my fault.
So go ahead.
All right, this is also a issue that you all are probably pretty aware of, so I don't need to tell you the background here. But just in case, the proposed site in St. John's, nobody wants it. Rep. Nelson doesn't want it. We've been in conversations with OBRC since this happened on trying to find other locations. One of the problems with finding another location is right now they're not allowed to do, it's harder to do a site in an industrial zone because the way that the bill was written. So this bill makes it more clear that they can do a full bottle redemption center in an industrial area. Most parts of Portland or the state, this wouldn't really make sense because they don't have industrial right next to residential or commercial like we do here in North Portland. So it made sense for us to make it so that they could cite it in industrial. The city and OBRC are still in conversations of, if they cite it in industrial, what are kind of the safeguards on that? So it's not just going into any industrial site, that there is some kind of either city review or some parameters on that. So we are working on an amendment to kind of clarify that they can go into industrial or commercial. And then we also added in there, because part of the problem with this situation is nobody knew about it. Nobody from OBRC really communicated about it. We found out about it shortly after probably you all found out about it. And part of the OLCC application for a bottle drop is that they have like almost like a checkbox of, we talked to the state representative and senator. There's nowhere in statute that says that requirement. It's just in rule with OLCC. So we've put in the bill that they have to do that outreach, but it's not just being like, hey, talk to Representative Nelson and Senator Frederick, check. We told them about our community engagement plan, which gives the representatives and senators a chance to say, your community engagement plan, it's not going to work because of these reasons, or like as part of your community engagement plan, go talk to the neighborhood associations to like give that little bit of feedback to OBRC before they even, start the process. It also gives in statute a little bit more weight to the OLCC commissioner to look at public comment, because right now it's kind of vague if they even really need to. They have it in their rules that they're supposed to look at public comment, but it's not very clear on, we looked at public comment, we got a bunch of public comment saying we don't want it in this location, we're not going to approve the application. So we wanted to put that in statute. it is part of, there's several bottle drop bills this session. I feel like ours is the most simple one because it really is about citing and that application.
Questions? Paul?
Just a comment, by the way, I love this bill, yes, I'm for this. The only reason we're having this conversation is because the beverage industries got together and convinced people that they couldn't drink Portland water, they had to drink bottled water, sometimes it's great for flavor. This is. We've been sold a bill of goods for one-use containers. I guess it's better to recycle a one-use container than to not recycle a one-use container, but we shouldn't have one-use containers. I know it's too late to stick that in this bill. Let's have that seat.
Yeah,
Because what we're doing, this is silly.
yeah, the other, Yeah.
For the folks on Zoom, Paul rose in support of the bill, and also to add that we should be talking about the issue of single-use containers and dealing with that as that's sort of the root cause. And we're treating the symptoms with kind of what we're addressing, but. So there's a question about exactly what this bill is trying to do, if we could summarize. So it sounds like two things, essentially, the industrial zoning and the community input piece.
yeah, so it's changing the zoning to allow to go into industrial zones, not just commercial, which allows for more of siting in different locations. And yes, a community plan engagement with state representatives and an opportunity for the community to give public testimony or public comment on the applications.
Any further questions?
Yeah, could I ask a question on the phone?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I'm supportive of the bill, but I did have a question on the industrial piece. So I read through the language, and it said that the commission may not approve a redemption center in an industrial location if the location is bigger than 5 acres, which I get it. Okay, makes sense. But then the other provision where they couldn't approve is if the development of the redemption center would trigger any requirement that a local government consider an update or analysis as required by a statewide planning goal relating to economic development, and that I could not parse. Can you help me understand what that's trying to accomplish?
So that part of our working amendment that we have right now, yes, also we're amending the bill. We're working on changing slightly to do what is said in this one pager. That part of the amendment, we have not decided on language. The city of Portland is giving feedback on zoning and what those requirements would be. And so once that's nailed down a little bit more, I'll have a better understanding of exactly what it means, because I'm not a zoning expert. So I actually am very confused of why they chose that language, but.
So the city wanted to include that language?
Yes, it was a city planner, and we're working on either refining that language or understanding it better. That's the last part of the -1 amendment before we submit it to be an official amendment.
Got it. So the goal hopefully wouldn't be to create a provision that basically rules out the vast majority of potential industrial sites. That would be kind of counterproductive, right?
I don't.
Say really quickly, the state has a list of all these goals that cities have to follow, and they're making all their plans and goals. One of them is about economic development, and part of that is maintaining industrial land so that you can actually produce industry in your cities. And if you eat that up and you allow it to be eaten up, it takes away from those available industrial lands. So I imagine that this is just saying they wouldn't be able to cite it in a place where the city sees it as, I don't know, viable industrial land and should be taken away from that unless it goes through some other process to say that. It's not good. it could mean that a lot of the industrial land is not allowed to host this. Like,
Mhm. So there is someone in the room who, you're an urban planner with that? Okay, urban planner, saying that it's a provision that sounds, basically to make sure that there remains industrial lands in the city, that can produce, manufacture, do those things.
Yeah.
And that this kind of reserves the ability for the city to make that judgment call of, hey, this is actually really useful and needs to be, I don't know, a woodworking facility instead, or something. Like it gives them the ability to kind of object on that larger scale vision of, what can we produce in the city and what lands do we have to do so? Is that a?
The exact property is what it's zoning is.
Right. Yeah. It's trying to leave them flexibility to make a decision based on a given property and where it is. And
Like, it just means that it could, disqualify a lot of properties. So, and again, it's not a poison pill by any means, I just want to learn more from Portland.
Mhm.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why we're having OBRC work with the city of Portland is to make sure that some of the alternate sites that we have, or that they have identified will work for the project. So that's why we're working really closely with them, so that we don't do a bill that would make it so that they couldn't do it in an industrial, in Portland. So that's why that conversation is ongoing between the experts that know way more about land use than I do.
We have time for one more question on Zoom. Mike, I see that you're in there, so feel free to go ahead, and then we'll have to move on either with a vote or not, but we'll have to move on from this one.
I'll be quick. Amy Beth, first, thank you and Representative Nelson for your commitment to constituent services. First, what committee is this going to?
Climate, energy, and environment.
Okay. And the other question is, do you have the bill numbers for the other bottle bill legislation?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
All right, would anybody like to make a motion on House Bill 2921-1? Yes, or you could make a different motion if you wish. It doesn't have to be to approve a letter of support. It could be. Yeah, Ashley motions to approve the letter of support. Is there a second?
I'll
for-
second it. Skinner?
Oh, Caroline, all right. So,
One thing you might not want to put the -1 because if we change it, it'll
Sure,
be -2.
yeah.
Sorry.
right now the letter just says
Okay,
without the
perfect.
dash,
Great,
so.
great.
So we have a first and a second. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna ask you to raise your hand if you oppose, and if there is anybody opposing, we will do a formal hand raise, yay, nay, abstain vote. But if you're opposed to supporting this bill, please raise your hand. Yep.
Some of this stuff we know, so there's a couple of things you mentioned at the beginning that seem fairly solid and we can agree on it. But then the conversation went off into this other area, you're like, oh, we haven't quite consistent yet, we're not really quite sure how this is going to work. So you're asking us to, I think, you're asking us to vote on some stuff that you're sure about. A bunch of stuff isn't finished yet. So if we vote on it, we approve it, what's to stop you doing something that maybe we don't approve it? Then
Sure.
screw it.
Yeah, the question in the room was, what's to stop something we don't like from going into the bill? And then we are on the record as supporting it. I mean, yeah, that's a fair.
Yeah, no, yeah. We're committed to to sharing the information as soon as we have amendments agreed upon. I've been trying to share as much as I can with RJ. You would know likely before we had a public hearing if an amendment was going to do something that you don't like. So then you would not submit this letter as public testimony in support. Does that make sense?
And we have a meeting in April, so we could always revisit. We could either not vote on it right now and revisit. We could also approve it as it is right now, and then we could return and say, actually, as amended, we disapprove this bill, and we could vote on that in April. So we do have opportunities to adjust down the line in such a manner if it goes in a direction we don't like.
And also, I am hoping to have by the end of the week that other language. The amendment language, that is my goal. It would be -1. We're working on the -1. Yes.
Donna, final word?
Well, could we just say that we agree to this as written now? I mean, just add a phrase that indicates that our agreement is just to the current text.
Great. So there's a motion to approve a letter of support amended to say as written. Is there a second on that motion? And we could uptake that motion instead. Is there a second on that motion?
Can I second it, Skinner?
Caroline seconds. Is there any further?
I don't want to put too many boxes around it, but we can easily, as we learn more, as we see more of the bill, say, I review the version of the bill dated X, and it differs from the version dated X, and we don't know X, Y, Z.
Mm-hmm.
Say this specific.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's a point in the room about this is changing, and we kind of box ourselves in as we do it as written. Okay, we've got to move on from this. So we're going Ashley's motion to support the bill, to support the letter, not amended. The letter is what it is, and we support the bill as right now. Caroline, do you still want to second that motion?
Sure.
Okay, anybody opposed? Raise your hand. Great, okay. That is approved, and in April, if anything changes, we can revisit this and bring it back up, and we can easily say as amended, we disapprove of this actually, and we're going to testify against it. So we'll be sure to keep in contact and revisit.
Yeah, and just so you know, timing wise, we might be having a hearing on this by the end of the month. But you can still submit testimony. Donna knows all about how to do that. Submit testimony on your own, not part of this process. And if you don't like what's in the amendment, you can submit that as public testimony as well. So there's other opportunities to support this bill, is what I'm trying to say.
Final one, I'm sharing it in the chat. This is House Bill 2738, ban on leaded gas at PIR. So we got to go quick on this one. Go
Yes.
for it.
So as you all, I don't know who all of you were around during the 2016 Moss study, where we found out all the bad things that are in our air based off of studies from actual green moss. Out of that came the Kenton lead blob, where community members were concerned because there was a section of lead found in Kenton. Looked at a few different sources. It could have been multiple sources, one of which was demolition of houses. So we did a bill on that. But then the other one was finding out that PIR at that time not only used lead at the allowed races with leaded gas, but also sold it on site. So at that point, COTEC joined, I think, some county commissioners asking Portland Parks and Rec to stop the use of leaded gas. Out of that, we got some signs put up just to warn folks. My nephews had been there probably eating dirt for years with lead in it. So warning folks, there's lead in the soil. We did get them to stop selling the leaded fuel on site. But we could not get them to stop the races that uses leaded gas. Tried for several years there. A Guardian article came out. There's some links on this one pager to that story that kind of brought it back up to the attention of Representative Nelson. So then we started having meetings with the city of Portland, ODOT, and then Commissioner Jayapal, asking them once again, can you please phase out the use of leaded gas? What will get you there? We had discussions about doing another study because DEQ came out and were not able to find sufficient evidence that the lead was coming off of the track, but they also couldn't do it during a time where they were having drag races. So the data wasn't super great. We tried to get them to fund a study. They wouldn't fund a study. So Rep. Nelson said, well, if you're not going to do it on your own, I'm going to do a bill. So we put together a bill. Part of what we had to get around, because I know there's some questions of like, why aren't we just banning leaded fuel for like aviation, and why are we keeping it to just basically within the city limits? And that's because there's federal preemptions from the Clean Air Act, not allowing us to basically do much legislation on banning leaded gas. Our lawyers think that this is as close as we can get to banning leaded gas without breaking that federal preemption. We have to pass a bill. It could still get challenged in federal court. We're hoping that it doesn't. So then, we came up with this bill to ban it. Led to conversations with Portland Parks and Recreation, and they came to us and said, we're willing to ban it, but we need some time. Can you have the effective date be later so that we have some time to find events to replace these events? The figure that they give us is the races that allow diesel or that allow leaded gas bring in about $600,000 a year. They need to have time to find other events to replace those events. So we did agree to a 2-year or until the end of 2028 effective date. They have told us that this should start almost an immediate reduction in the number of races that have leaded gas, because the folks in this community will start going to other places, but they will also start community engagement to find other other events to replace these races. So that is a promise that we've gotten from Portland Parks and Recreation, that if we give them some time to phase it out before a full out ban, that they will start working with the community to find other events to fill in those events, and that we should see a reduction. And I know the folks are not very happy about the amendment, but if we don't get the Portland Parks and Recreation to be neutral on the bill, we won't pass it. We already have organized efforts from Friends of PIR who came to the town hall and are organizing to kill this bill. So if we have them against it and we have the city of Portland, we're not going to get it past this session. If we don't get it past this session, we'll have to come back in 2027 with probably a similar operative date. Anyways, this gets us at least started on that. And I will say this is in the 9 years that I've been doing this work, this is the closest we've gotten Portland Parks and Rec to agree to a phase out and a ban. So we think that this is the best course of action, or Representative Nelson thinks this is the best course of action.
Questions, comments? I know we have a comment here.
Brian here from the association. Okay. So we were about it. I mean, we don't want to take up too much time because I know packed agenda, but we've been working on this. The Kent Neighborhood Association has been working on this for 9+ years. We were disappointed to see the pushback to 2028, but I think the explanation makes sense that if there's testimony from the local municipality, it's not going to go anywhere. If you haven't yet checked out the Guardian article, I would. I think one of the most profound things from that was one of the co-authors of that article lives in Kenton, and as she was talking to these scientists and explaining how close she lived to the track, what would their recommendation be? She was told that she should move, essentially, that it's not safe. There's tons of evidence. We've spoken at city council about this. The push against this, as mentioned, when I was at the town hall on Saturday, the Friends of PIR showed up in a big group and were very vocal and booed quite a bit. I think it's from a neighborhood association perspective, like I would really ask you all to sign on to this, because this is, as you said, as close as we've gotten, and it's up to 1.5 miles where the impact on student learning, up to 2 miles, et cetera. All the data is there. This is a really important issue. So as your neighbors, we ask you to support this.
Thank you. And that for those on Zoom, close to, or maybe they heard it, but we had some representatives from the Kenton Neighborhood Association here sharing they've worked on this for close to a decade, and you know, think that while maybe not ideal, this phase out and makes sense, and getting something done is really the key here. And so there's forces mobilizing against this movement, and so would recommend supporting this and getting something done and something passed. There's a motion to approve. So we can continue debate. There's a motion in the chat from Alex to approve the letter of support for this. Would you second the motion? If the motion is seconded, we're going to open up and continue debate. So Brooklyn, feel free to go ahead.
Needs to be a contract with there. Their main point that I've been hearing is just, every time we make it more cost-effective to, have these legal races, you're just feeding the illegal races. And in those illegal races, they're gonna use leaded gas, and there's just nothing we can do about it. What is your response to that? Of like, hey, this won't make the, races more cost-effective. It will still be easy for people to participate in legal races.
And the question was basically, comment was Friends of PIR say banning these races will just make them happen, but not through legal means. And the question was, what do you think of that argument, I guess?
Yeah, so first point, driving cars on the streets with leaded gas is illegal. I know people that are doing street races, they don't care if things are illegal, but we did pass legislation that allows, if you are caught street racing, the city is now allowed to take your car from you. There are other places for them to do these races. They're a little bit further away, but PIR is the only raceway, I believe, in the country that is close to community. So all the other ones, you can't really see very well on this map. All of the other ones are not right next to where people live. So if people really want to drive their cars and they don't want to do any retrofits, they can choose to do that at other racetracks. There's no way to stop people from, completely stop people from doing something illegal, but it is illegal to drive on the street with leaded gas.
I would make a comment that there are alternative fuels, but these are mostly classic cars where they want to keep their engines pure by only using the old style of leaded fuel, rather than using some of the new synthetics that are not as destructive to the environment. So they really cared about the racing. They could do it a lot. There are a lot of events at PIR. This is a small portion, but the impact on the environment is pretty huge from it. So they still could do a ton of racing out there. It's really only the classic cars and then a few motorcycle classifications that use the leaded fuel, but it still puts out quite a bit when they do those races.
And the comment was basically it's classic cars and a few motorcycle classes that use leaded fuel. It's a very small percentage of the activity that goes on at PIR. Yeah, and they can find other places to participate. So we're going to close this up then, and we have the motion has been made. It's been seconded. Does anybody oppose the letter of support for this bill?
Clarification, I thought the bill was extending the period of time. But anyway, until it was like, let's allow a little more time for PIR to sell the gas. And that's what y'all were saying, that's a good thing. That was what you said.
There's no bill right now. So
Okay.
when the initial language was 2026 Parks Act asked for 2 more years, but there's no bill banning it now. This would be the only bill ban.
So this is like better than that.
Yes.
I just wanted to-
Point of clarification from the audience, just that this. Right. Yeah. This is, it was confirming that there is not an extension. This isn't like extending a deadline. This is creating one. And that this was a compromise deadline with Portland Parks. So we're going to do a couple, any opposition, raise your hand in the room or in Zoom. I don't see any, so the motion passes and we have the letter of support for the PIR bill. Amy Beth, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And thank you all for your thoughtful questions and debate. That is all. You're good to go. You're free.
Just one more plug.
Sure.
Newsletter, follow his newsletter. Staff works really hard on that. But also his social media. We're trying to get a little bit more fun with that. So follow, we're going to try to do Blue Sky. I don't know how to do that stuff. So that's why I have young interns. So
Thanks, Amy Beth.
thank you.
Great. And now we'll have PBOT come on up here. We've got Mike, we've got David, and it's North Willamette Boulevard, the Plaza, North Portland in Motion.
Sort of. We have maybe a slight change of.
Sure. Please come here.
Yeah. Hi, good morning, good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Saratella, PBOT Planning. I have a conflict. I gotta go.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Because we're running a little bit late, but I can come back next month. Talk about North Portland in Motion, give an update on that plan and some projects that are coming to North Portland soon. The gist while David's setting up is that I just want to thank SJNA and St. John's Neighbors for helping us shape the plan over the last couple of years. The plan was adopted by council unanimously in December and was also committed $5 million to help us build these neighborhood safety and connectivity projects. So I'll come back. I just have to go. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Running
no,
late.
sorry
It's all
about running
good.
late on our side.
But I'll come back and do an update and get some feedback and input, but I do need to run. And I'm going to pass it to my friend David, who's going to talk about a bunch of other full transportation stuff happening in St. John's.
Thanks, Mike.
And I don't have a ton of time either. So I'm going to kind of orient you to, hi, I'm David Backus from PBOT. I'm a project manager. Hoping to kind of orient you to where you can find some information about a few projects that I'm working on in the neighborhood, or adjacent to the neighborhood, going through kind of quickly. So how many people are familiar with the projects coming on North Willamette Boulevard? A decent amount. So if you ever use Willamette, I would recommend kind of familiarizing yourself with what has been recently done and what is still upcoming. There've been kind of a series of projects on Willamette over the last about a year or so now. The construction started. The next phase of construction is looking to be starting kind of late summer, maybe starting in the fall, but it'll be about a year-long phase of construction, and then we'll be done on Willamette for a while. So North Willamette Boulevard, I wanted to show a couple of things on the project website just so you know that they're here and available. I think maybe the link went into the chat, but we are at 100% plans now, which is kind of like the dress rehearsal for finishing up plans. We're still making final tweaks and corrections, but we're basically ready to get the project out to a contractor and start construction, like I said, fairly soon. So we have some visuals on the project website. You can see some changes, big changes coming to several of the intersections along Willamette. I also hosted a couple kind of walkthroughs of the plans showing exactly what's going to be happening over the next year and a half or so. And there are recordings of these meetings on the project website also. I can't get into the full range of what I talked about there, but this is the full corridor from the Richmond side over here all the way to Rosa Parks. This map is what I walked through in those. So if you want to see what that looks like, I'll pause for a second, but everything we're planning on constructing is on this map, and I kind of walk through and explain in real time what we're planning on doing for Willamette. The big things to keep in mind are The bike lanes between Richmond and Rosa Parks are going to be protected with concrete traffic separators. We're adding speed cushions to slow down traffic. We're adding more lighting, more crosswalks, and better transit stops so people aren't, you know, standing in the mud waiting for a bus to come. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Some intersection reconfigurations and that kind of thing to make it safer for people to bike and walk and use transit along the corridor. The next one I have is the St. John's Plaza. So I have some news about a few updates coming to the plaza. So I've been working with Tanya Hartnett quite a bit from Venture Portland, and she's been coordinating with the boosters. But she recently got a grant to add some more lighting to the plaza right at Philadelphia and Lombard in the heart of St. John's. There have been complaints about safety and it just being too dark in the plaza at night. So there's one new light that got added recently. It doesn't work yet. There's a problem with the wiring. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a pole with a light, doesn't work, but our electricians are taking a look at it. The contractor was having trouble hooking it up correctly. In addition to that, we're adding 3 more lights. So one is kind of up closer to where the drinking fountain is, kind of near the bus stop area. And then 2 more down a little bit closer to the Ivanhoe side on the near Philadelphia. Those are gonna look, where'd my picture go? Well, they're we call them ped scale lights, but they're kind of the ornamental decorative lights that are a little bit lower. And instead of being way up on a pole, kind of casting shadows down, they help light up people's faces and stuff a little bit more. So it's kind of a more friendly style of lighting. And we're gonna have banner arms on the sides so the boosters can hang informational banners in the plaza. We also need to reconstruct these corner ramps to make them ADA compliant. Right now, there's a light pole directly in the middle of one of the ramps. So if you're in a wheelchair or pushing a stroller or something, it's really hard to get through to the ramp. And the other thing we're looking at, so part of this work is going to get into the pavement in Philadelphia. We're going to have to do some repair for the striping and the pavement. Right now, if you're familiar with coming off the bridge, there's a single lane that comes off the bridge, and then you can go into 2 lanes on Philadelphia to turn left or right. But what happens here, that I live in the neighborhood, by the way, so I'm here all the time, is you have a car waiting to go, you know, these are poorly drawn cars. We have one going right and left. Maybe you have somebody waiting to cross the street here, and there's a car here, and nobody knows who's supposed to go when, partially because when there's 2 cars here, it's hard to see, you know, across this way when you want to go right. It's really confusing. So I've been working with our traffic engineer, who also lives right in the neighborhood and is interested in kind of correcting this problem too, on a traffic model to see what would happen if we took Philadelphia down to 1 lane. And what he found is that the capacity of Philadelphia here, just pause this for a second, as a single lane can hold more cars as they kind of steadily flow through than the single lane entering. So there's no reason for there to be 2 lanes on Philadelphia when there's only 1 lane coming from the bridge that allows traffic onto Philadelphia anyway. So with the always stop configuration, the cars that queue up on Philadelphia, it's kind of like a steady drip out. But that bucket never fills up and overflows because it's limited by the signal down at Ivanhoe coming off the bridge. So that would be kind of the bigger change to this area that we're looking at doing. The lighting fix to the pole that's already there should be done within the next couple weeks, unless there's something really wrong with it and we need new parts. But I don't think that'll take too long. The rest of the new lighting should be in this spring, and the Philadelphia lane reconfiguration change would also be happening around then. So let me flip back over to here. That was really fast. Are there any questions about this? Yeah.
So that saves some money, what I think, that saves some money. What do you do?
Yeah.
The question is, what do you do with the extra space with bringing it down to 1 lane from 2?
Yeah, so right now the lanes are about 9 feet wide. They're undersized now. It's really tight. So we're looking at increasing the single lane width and basically just having kind of narrow shoulder, about 4-foot shoulders on each side, just for extra width. If there's ever a time where ODOT, who owns the St. John's Bridge, stripes in bike lanes or something and brings them across, it might make sense to look at this now that we have some more space to say, you know, would a bike lane into the heart of the St. John's business district make sense here? But right now you're coming from, you know, if you've survived the bridge, you can handle Philadelphia. So it's kind of a placeholder plan right now, you know. Let's get rid of the extra lane and figure out what might make sense later. So yeah. Like if we were going to bring in the curb lines to reconfigure, like this striping change is probably $3,000. You know, this would be tens of thousands of dollars to really narrow the roadway itself, the whole stretch, or yeah. Yeah. Or if there were planters or something, you could do that, but it's still really expensive because you have to get under to do the piping and everything. So it's not kind of the scale project this can support, but I think taking it down to 1 lane and having people see that it works fine, then you're like, oh, well, there's extra space. Maybe another project can come through and do something better. But for this, we're on a pretty tight budget.
Could I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
The flashing stop signs were a
Yeah.
pilot project. Do we have results or data about if they helped the situation at that intersection?
They did at this intersection, but we did them in 2. So we, when we first removed the traffic signal, we put up stop signs without the flashing lights. And about 6 weeks after the street was fully open, a woman was hit in the crosswalk, and which obviously was terrible. I think she did okay after breaking a hip or maybe a knee, but so we, I think within 3 months, got approval to put up the flashing red stop signs to make that more visible, because there are a lot of complaints about people just blowing through, especially on Lombard, because of the change. At this intersection, the before and after comparison, I think it was a 10% better compliance with fully stopping. But there were other intersections, 2 other ones that we put these up and it made no difference, which is really strange. So
we're rule followers here.
Yeah, I guess. And part of it, I think, is the conditions at the other intersections were a little bit different than here. I think when you're traveling on Lombard, since it's the only place where it's stop controlled, it's kind of surprising to see a stop sign. So when you have the blinking red lights, it helps people with awareness, especially if you haven't been in the area in a while. I think people are more used to it now, but we haven't run the study again. Maybe a year and a half ago, we looked at that. So right now the plan is just to leave them up. I'm kind of hoping people forgot that we put them there so they don't ask to remove them, but because we don't, it's not a standard, it's not a standard tool in the PBOT toolkit. So there's no, because then people are like, they're still out there. No, I think the fear is that people will see them in St. John's and say, oh, well, you know, no one's stopping at this stop sign in my neighborhood. We need them here. And people don't stop at stop signs anywhere, you know, unfortunately. But if we put them blinking signs everywhere, it's going to cost a ton of money. And the compliance, I don't think would go. I think it's a really good spot treatment where there's a specific problem, but it's just not something that could be supported everywhere. So, yeah. But here, the good news is the data showed a pretty big change from the before and after. So if it didn't, I'd be more nervous, but I think we're good on these ones for a while. Yeah. Yeah.
Very narrow street north of the bridge. So, I mean, Rosa Parks and, you know, all those things that you mentioned are definitely needed. But you go under the bridge and Willamette is like this way.
Yeah.
And everybody parks on the street on both sides. So like if you're coming home and that's the way you're coming home because you live down on Syracuse, it's like, get your car.
Yeah.
And then somebody in a F-150 is coming straight at you and you can't even get out of their way because there's cars parked on both sides.
Yeah, Mike,
Is there any plan to address that?
he'd be a good person to ask about it. Yeah.
This
They say no parking on the, one side of the street, there's no.
Yeah, and part of Willamette on the other side of Richmond doesn't allow parking on the uphill side. But then it ends, so a lot of people park in the planting strip, yeah. Yeah.
so
It is dangerous.
the question in the room was about North Willamette Boulevard, but I guess past Northport, the updates you were talking about end at
At Richmond, yeah.
and this would be past Richmond and
Yeah.
how it gets really narrow. But that is, I know that's going to be a greenway as part of North Portland in motion the rest of the way. So there
Yeah.
might be,
There are changes coming, but I don't know exactly what kind. It's something Mike will be looking at, I think, in a little bit, but it's not too far along yet. Yeah.
and a final thing here, and then we'll have to move on. I know you have to go.
Yeah.
But this is something you've addressed before. Somebody who talked about there used to be a stoplight at that intersection.
Yeah.
And that was removed. And I know that you had you had reasons for that. And so I didn't know if you wanted to share why the stop signs instead of the stoplight.
Yeah.
There.
Part of it was cost. So we being PBOT, we had a project, I think it was under construction starting in 2020 or 2021 to fully reconstruct the street. I'm sure some of you remember when we had it down to dirt literally there. So part of the project was upgrading all of the corner ramps. And when we do that, we have to upgrade traffic signals if there are any. But as part of a project like this, we'll evaluate, does it still make sense to have a traffic signal here or not? And in this case, Lombard used to be basically the through street for trucks. The St. John's truck strategy that I think was done in like 2002 or 2004 was part of the reason that the main freight traffic was pushed onto Ivanhoe instead. And at that point, there really isn't what's called warrants for a traffic signal, which is kind of fancy traffic engineer lingo for the amount of through traffic and cross traffic and all of these kinds of metrics they look at. So we knew the signal wasn't warranted from a traffic perspective, and it also would have cost, we basically would have had to replace it. Traffic signals now to replace are, if you spend 1.2 million to replace a traffic signal, it's pretty inexpensive. I had a recent one that's closer to 1.6, 1.8. And you're paying maintenance costs on that in, forever, and then you're replacing it again. So because we're in a budget problem kind of constantly, if we can find ways that we're not going to be paying ongoing maintenance costs or really, really reducing them, like replacing a stop sign is way less than somebody running over a traffic signal pole, which happens all the time. So instead of upgrading the traffic signal and replacing a bunch of components, because it wasn't warranted anyway, we elected to remove it. So that basically just stopped that ongoing maintenance costs that we're paying over time, and we didn't have to pay $1 million plus to upgrade it. And from talking with people in the community, one of the issues was if you're coming off the bridge, you see a green light at Ivanhoe, then you see the green light at Lombard. You're just flooring it to make all those lights and flying through the business district, and it wasn't a very inviting environment. So part of this was just to get people, once they arrive in the business district, to kind of slow down and realize you're in a different kind of environment. So yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's everything, unless there's any last thing you wanted to add.
Oh, and you don't have to push the button to wait to cross the street, which always irritated me, especially here, because people would hit the button and get frustrated. There was no traffic, then they'd cross, then cars would be stopped for no reason. It just didn't make sense. So anyway, yeah. Did I put my, do you want to drop my contact info in the chat or something?
Sure,
That was
yeah,
talking
yeah.
really fast. So
Yeah.
if you have questions about Willamette or the St. John's Plaza, let me know. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for being
Thanks.
here.
Yeah. All right. Sure, I'll be back somewhat soon.
There's a standing invitation. You
Okay,
can't come back.
yeah,
anytime.
yeah.
That is true. Did you vote in anything this evening? or-
Not this time, yeah. I will someday.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, bye.
All right, y'all. We're doing it. It's 8:12. We're not over time yet. But we're behind on schedule. So right now, this is when we normally do community updates. And so if there are members of these community organizations listed on the agenda or not, we can take like 1-2 minutes tops. We have the boosters on first. If Laura or anybody from the boosters is on. Don't think so. St. John Center for Opportunity. All right, and Donna, you're next on the list. Let's talk emergency route.
Hey,
Continue.
okay, so I'll try to keep this quick. First of all, the most important thing is that people really need to be in touch with what's happening. And we have a Facebook page and I have an email list and I put that information in the chat because over the next 5 months during this session, this bill, okay, the bill number 2749 has to go through several stages. And at every stage, we need to be on top of it. I can tell you that we have been told by both Lou Frederick and Travis that the testimony that was sent last summer when the Transportation Committee did its roadshow, we had 50 people send in testimony. It was really impressive. So when we have hearings on this bill, we have to rally the community. We need to get 100, 150 testimonies. And it's really easy to do. And I will be putting out stuff and maybe even doing a little Zoom training to tell people how to send in. It can be written testimony, it can be verbal testimony. There's different ways of doing it. We have an amazing system in the legislature to make it easy to do. And actually, one of the things you could do right now is if you go to the Oregon legislature and you look up House Bill 2749, you will see in the upper right-hand corner, there's something that says e-subscribe. And you can give them your email address and they will send you a notice when the bill is going to be heard in a hearing. So that's the most important thing. There will be several hearings that it will have to go through. So it's not a one-time thing. We will have to send in testimony multiple times and we want everybody to stay on top of that. The initial thing right now is to get a hearing. And I can tell you there's something like 3,000 bills that are introduced in the legislature during a long session, and only a handful of them get through. So it's great that we have the bill, but that does not guarantee anything. And at this stage, trying to get the hearing, what we're doing is we have a coalition right now. We have all the neighborhood associations. We have 2 of the PTAs. We have George and James John. If anybody's with Sitton or Roosevelt and wants to be part of this, please let me know. We have a church coalition. We have Extinction Rebellion. And anyways, what we're trying to do is get the coalition members to send in to the committee to say, we need a hearing. So the first thing is to get a hearing scheduled. Once we have that scheduled, then I will put out the word to the whole community and we all have to rally and you can send in a sentence. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It doesn't really. Testimony sounds like a fancy word. All it means is you are telling them, yes, this bill needs to pass. We need an emergency route. So that's all I'm going to say, but do hook in with us and be on the alert, because when we need to call you out, you need to do something right away. Okay, I think that's in. That's it.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay, I'll put the Facebook page in chat again. Give me a minute.
Thank you, Donna. All right, we're going to go to Letty, and then Caroline, you'll go ahead after that. Go ahead, Letty.
All right. Hi, I'm Letty Alvarez, and I'm going to talk about Dia de los Niños. There's a little bit of information about me there. You can see who I am. I'm the organizer of this event. And St. John's Neighborhood Association received a grant to put on this event this year, which is great. We have a location. Here's some pictures from the previous years, some highlights. We were in where the Wonderwood golf courses the first year, the library did it the second year, and then we were in the Plaza last year. So we will be at the St. John's Community Center this year. It's a day to promote literacy. It's a day to promote just children and community engagement. And so we will be having it this year at that location. I'm looking for volunteers. Here's some of the anticipated participants. We're going to have our drag queen story time with the new drag queen. We've had Poison Waters in the past, but it's going to be Bolivia Carmichael's this year. Latino Network is going to do a dance, the baile folclórico, which is like a traditional kind of Mexican dance with the dresses. And then some other vendors I'm waiting to hear back from. But this, ideally, it's just, promoting children and community engagement, all that. This is what I'm looking for volunteers. I need help with setup. I need help with cleanup if somebody could take pictures. Anybody able to help me with graphic design, and then just like making signs. So there's some basic help I need. Our budget is a little bit over $1,000. There's the items outlined there. I think the grant funding, we have maybe up to 1,200, but we're looking at maybe spending a little over 1,000. So those are just the venue is 186. So we got really a good deal there. There's my contact information. I'm going to do a planning meeting on April 1st to confirm participants and talk about your volunteer jobs and how you can help. So I really hope people on the call reach out to me and we can make this event really successful. And I hope to see you there.
Thank you, Letty. And that was April 26th at what time?
It's going to start, the event will be 2 to 4. I'd like people there at 1:30 to help set up. So 1:30 to 4:30, you can do like 2-hour shifts or 1-hour shifts, just come and help. And yeah. Does Dave King have a question about the event? I see his hand up.
Dave, is it about the event or do you have an update for a different organization?
I have a different update.
Okay, we'll get to you in just a second there then. So Letty, I'll send out a meeting recap as well via email, and I'll include this information and for people to be able to reach out. So is it an email address that would be the preferred outreach?
Yes,
or...
I'll put it in the chat. Yeah, an email address. Perfect.
Okay. And so if you're in the room and there's a sign up sheet for our newsletter up there. And we can send out the recap, and there's a way to get in touch with Letty there if you're interested in volunteering for the event. Thanks, Letty.
Thank you.
So I know we had Caroline next for Friends of Baltimore Woods, and then Dave, we'll go to you. Gotta go quick here.
Friends of Baltimore Woods, we're developing and supporting a natural area from approximately Cathedral Park along North Decatur up to Reno. It's approximately 30 acres. We've had literally thousands of volunteers over the years, and we're taking out invasive plants and putting in native plants. And our annual fundraiser is coming up. We hold a native plant sale in conjunction with Sparrowhawk Native Plants. And March 2nd is the important day to know. That's when their online plant ordering opens. And Sparrowhawk partners with 4 different nonprofit community groups, and Friends of Baltimore Woods is the North Portland partner of their spring sale. So if you order from Sparrowhawk and you pick up in St. John's, your sale will partially benefit FOBW. And your pickup weekend is just a week before the Dia de los Niños, which is you would pick up on April 18 or 19 right over by the Bachelor's Club at the St. John's Church parking lot. So it is a lot of fun, and you can learn a lot about native plants on the Sparrowhawk Native Plants website. So thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. And that's sparrowhawknatives.com.
I think so. I don't even have the poster in front of me, but you can Google, if you Google Sparrowhawk Natives, it should take you right to their website. It's very good photos, good garden information, good ecology information.
It's sparrowhawknativeplants.com.
Thank you so much for that. Got it.
Yes. I'll put that in the chat. It'll also go out in that recap email, everyone. All right. Dave, go ahead.
Okay, this is a Rumble on the River. It's the 19th forum that have been held all over the city. This one's enough grumbling, let's get rumbling. It's Thursday, February the 20th at 6:30 at St. Luke's Lutheran Church, 4595 Southwest California Street. And what it is, it's 4 different panelists and 4 different topics. Zenith Energy expansion schemes, PGE's proposed intrusion into Forest Park, Port Westward's plans to have a massive refinery and rail yard down in the Columbia River estuary, Port Westward, and a surge of artificial intelligence and data centers threats to Oregon's 45-year-old anti-nuke law. And that law says that to build a power plant, you have to have a federally licensed disposal site and a vote of the people in the state. And they're trying to, the bills in the legislature to undercut that so they can build all these nukes. So yeah, that's it. So it's February 20th, St. Luke's Church, 4595 Southwest California at 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go ahead and close it, seeing no more hands raised in the room or in Zoom, and move on to board updates. Bearing the lead a little bit, I guess, here. So I received an email today from the interim director of Multnomah County Library, Annie Lewis, who's been at our meetings before. What she was able to share is they have identified a location for a temporary library in St. John's, and it would have similar services to the Hawthorne's Holt Pickup location currently open. So this would include Holt's Pickup, 24/7 book return, Wi-Fi, free mobile and wireless printing, a small media collection, some book bundles, and a Lucky Day collection. So they're in the process of negotiating a lease agreement. So they don't have official details like an opening date or things they can share there. But they do plan to move forward, and this would be normal library hours. Like this would be right now we've been having the mobile library and it's been a few hours during the day, during the week. This would be a robust schedule, normal library hours with a lot of functions here, just not a huge in-person collection, but you can place your holds and pick them up, and it will be in St. John's. So as soon as the details are passed along about the specific location and when they're looking to open, we can share those as well. But that was at 11:57 this morning, what was shared. So we're getting a temporary library, huh? We're doing it. Now go use it. I hope to see you there. I'm calling you for your update, and I'll come up and yeah. Yes, one second. And then the one other, so I have BottleDrop update here. There was a talk a little bit around it with the Rep Nelson's bill around the siting, and that's sort of the current issue right now is that with the sort of ambiguity or difficulty in putting a BottleDrop into a location cited for industrial zoning, they're kind of just, they continue to look for new locations and are trying to move forward with new locations, but the zoning issue has gotten in the way. So they had a place that they identified as viable and they wanted to move forward with, but it was going to be a lease and they couldn't get the word from the city that it would work because it was an industrial zoning. And then so the place ended up leasing somewhere else. So they continue to look. They're committed to finding another location, and it's really you know, yeah, I guess it seems they're looking for that flexibility to be able to have more options to cite a bottle drop location. So they are looking for, they reached out today asking the neighborhood association to provide a letter of support to the city saying you should allow redemption centers and industrial zoning. I tried to reach out to the city to get their side of the story, just so that there was not only one set of information, but we maybe have the like, here's why we don't allow it, or here's why we want to caution this. But you know, it was a short time frame, so I haven't received that information. So the tricky thing is the timeline that we're on. So we're really, our next general meeting, by the time we vote on this again, like it's too far into the future. We have an informal gathering in March. Our next general meeting's in April. So in my opinion, the course of action would be, as we've done with other letters of support, to grant the board executive privilege to draft a letter of support for allowing redemption centers and industrial zoning, and then the board can do the research, can talk with the city, and can discuss to understand where their point of view is, and if so, move forward with the letter, and we draft the letter and submit it, asking them to be able to zone it industrial. I think that's the only way to do something now. Otherwise, it's just kind of, it would be individual outreach in the future if the time came to the city, and or just hoping that it kind of gets resolved between their back and forth between the city and OBRC. So
RJ, can we make a motion right now?
sure, yeah.
May I make a motion?
Yes, please go ahead.
I think you said it better than I want to include all the things that you said about this. Like, I would like to make a motion. Can we work it out as a community, like what our motion is?
So I guess my proposal there was granting the board the executive authority to draft a letter as we see fit after doing the due diligence, in general, in support of redemption centers being able to be cited in industrial areas, industrial zoning. It's a you know, word jumble there, but does that, so you want to move forward with that motion, Christina? Is that fair?
I would like to move forward with that motion. I don't have all the vocabulary of it, but like, I would like to move forward with the motion, like a advisory motion that this is where we stand. You know what I mean?
Is there a second? Joe seconds. Is there any further like questions or debate on this? Anybody want to bring a counterpoint or amendment or anything? Yeah, Josh, go ahead.
I'm in support of that. I think it's good to draft a letter to be, ready to submit. I just wanted to raise a concern. As an architect, a lot of things can be considered industrial that people might not be thinking about. There are a lot of nuances in city zoning code, so that's one of the things I want to be mindful of. There may be industrial uses that are in commercial zones, and so I would be curious to see how this bill proceeds and what the language is around it. So I hesitate to stop short a little bit of full-throated support just because of that.
Sure.
But yeah, not trying to say anything against this motion.
Yes, yeah, and Ashley brings up the point that our board meetings are open to the public and on Zoom, and so when there's discussion of it there, it can general members can participate in that as well. So yeah, this would effectively be granting the board the authority to make the decision in the best interest of the neighborhood, while sort of broadly us agreeing that in a broad general sense, we agree that industrial zoning, like, it shouldn't be prohibited, basically, is what we're saying. That it shouldn't just be a straight, you can't do it there, but instead it should be at least be able to be considered. Any, right. Right, yeah, to Paul's point, just because it's permitted in principle doesn't mean every case to be permitted. It would, but that's, yeah, where I think we want to talk to the city and do the research and whatnot, but yeah, this is basically tasking the board with doing that and making the right call for the neighborhood. So there is a motion with a second on the floor. Any final comment or question? Okay, and we're gonna try it again. If anybody's opposed to the motion, please raise your hand, and if so, we can go ahead to a straight yay, nay, abstain vote. Great. Okay, so the motion passes. We will continue to work on this, and we will make sure to keep you updated and share with you as we. Yes, dates and links for the board meeting are on the website, and we have other events coming up. So now I'm going to stop talking and go. Duncan, do you have anything that you want to share or update?
No, I'll just be very quick. You know, Letty already came on, talked about the grant, talked about Dia de los Niños. If you have any interest, please volunteer. You know, the three of us wrote this grant because we couldn't contribute last year, so we wanted to, you know, support this event, contribute this year. If you have any interest in it, we'd love as many participants as possible. That's all I got.
Thanks, Duncan. Yeah. All right, we are going to go to. We're going to go quickly through the other updates, and we'll end on the treasurer's report. So I'm actually going to go to Karina. If there's anything from you, if you wouldn't mind coming down here and providing any updates, if you wish. Yeah, come on down.
I'll just quickly introduce myself. Hi, everyone. My name's Karina, Safety, Livability, Transportation Chair Board. There's other members on that, call it SALT for short, team as well. Not sure if they're on the Zoom or not, but we do have Matt, and we can drop his email as well, but he's the one that takes care of like a lot of the transportation stuff, any inquiries, ideas, suggestions, etc. You can feel that to him. I typically do the St. John Solve neighborhood cleanups. So that's really what I just want to talk about. We're going to have the first one of the year, February 22nd, tentatively. It's going to be in the Pier Park area. Sorry, I cannot pronounce the street name correctly. Weyerhaeuser?
Weyerhaeuser? Is that Weyerhaeuser?
Weyerhaeuser.
Thank you. Yes, that's where we're planning to meet on the corner of there and North James Street from 9 to 11. Right now on the website, you could only see the flyer for the event. You cannot register yet. We're just waiting for confirmation from Ecology so that they could donate the dumpster. That's a little bit of information we need when we sign up on the Solve website. But we do have 3 other dates, June 21st and August 23rd. Do want to let you know, fully cognizant there's only 3 dates on the calendar. So if there's anyone that says, hey, I want to organize a Solve cleanup in my area, in my neighborhood, or in another area that is there's a lot of traffic, and we know that there's a lot of there can be a lot of cleaning that can be helpful for that, please let me know, and I'm happy to coordinate and schedule that and find a way to post that out on our websites, on our socials, etc. So that's really all from me.
And while with those solve cleanups, we do hope that you'll sign up in advance. You're not required to. We'll have sign up sheets there as well. So you can also just put it in your calendar and plan to join, and we'll take care of the rest. So we hope to see you there.
Thank you all.
Thanks for me.
That's it.
Oh, yeah. Ashley, come on down. More events, more fun.
Yay, all the fun. Hello, everyone. I'm Ashley. I am the informal gathering wrangler.
Sure. Yeah, that's the official title.
Guru.
Yeah.
This specific time we asked for community input. There is a Google form available in the newsletter. If you guys could fill it out, it'd be really helpful. Right now, it's really leaning towards like a community book sharing event where we bring books and trade them with our neighbors, and then any leftover books, we go as small groups and put them into little libraries throughout the neighborhood. Either that or a game night, which could also be fun. And it's leaning very, very, very steeply towards Saturday, March 15th. So just so you know where we're at kind of right now, that's kind of the tentative leanings of the 25 individuals who have filled out the form. So there's plenty of room for input. I encourage you to get that to us so that we can make a final plan and get that out in the next newsletter.
Yeah, so it was in the newsletter last week, and then when we send the meeting recap, we can include the link in there too, and then.
Yeah, and if I don't get enough responses, I'll blast you all on social media. Thanks.
Thanks, Ashley. Any other updates from other board members in here on Zoom before we head to the treasurer's report? Quick, question, Christina?
Hi, I'm Christina. I'm a part of SJSC. We do a bunch of different letters, but we normally do the spring cleanup. I would like to encourage everyone to like save their recyclables that they can't recycle on the curb. We're working on how to like do a date where it doesn't have a conflict with another date, but I would like to just encourage everyone to keep their recyclables that they can't recycle on any other date, because we do this every year. We're just we don't have a date yet, but it'll be in the spring, probably April or May. And it would be great if everyone could just participate and just save your stuff until then.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the sort of the spring cleaning dumpster day. So it'll be bulky waste, and then it'll be the hard to recycle items, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're collaborating between SJNA, the St. John Sustainability Committee, so SJSC, there's a lot of acronyms, to get the right date, to get services there to be able to recycle things. Like we're trying to get styrofoam this time and see if we can get somebody out to be able to collect that. So yes, April or May, but hopefully something more on that very soon. Recycle concrete? I haven't. I don't know. That's that is a good question. Anybody that knows how to get rid of concrete, drop it in the chat.
Probably taking it to the dump, right?
In
Recycling
Northwest.
concrete?
Yeah. So we have one thing in the chat, and then we got to go to the treasurer's report. May 31st is the Mid-Peninsula Dumpster Day, sponsored by University Park Neighborhood Association in Portsmouth, and the Is that the Friends of the Eagles? Tom, what is FOE?
It's, whatever.
Fraternal Order? Yeah.
Yeah, fraternal order is exactly it. Yeah. But
Eternal
it's sponsored and that's May 31st. So we won't compete with you guys.
Great. Thanks, Tom. All right, Bernie. I think my screen is being shared. Yeah. Feel free to go ahead with the treasurer's report.
Okay, this is for the general checking account from the dates of January 12th to February 9th. Our beginning balance, $8,205.06. Income. Venmo, 34 cents. And Venmo, 17 cents. This is all on the 7th of February, and this was a test being done on the Venmo site as we were checking it out and trying to get onto it. Total income was a total of 51 cents. Zoom expenses, January 23rd, $15.99. That's our monthly web services charge. Facilitron Incorporated, that is the business that Portland Public Schools use to do all of their scheduling and rental of their facilities. And we did 2 payments. One was January 31st of $19.93 for the George Middle School where you're at. Next expense, Red Sea Community Church for last month's general meeting. For that facility was $25. MailChimp, February 3rd, $38.25 for web services. That's our email. Then for the final payment for the facility rental of George to Facilitron Incorporated, February 6th, $59.80. And then the expense of the Venmo on the 7th, 17 cents out, and Venmo on the 7th, 34 cents out. So total expenses, $159.48, leaving us with a balance of $8,046.09. Restricted of that is from our Metro account grant for the cleanups and stuff is $3,085.60, leaving us with an unrestricted balance of $4,960.49.
We don't even need.
Any
Yeah.
questions?
No questions.
Okay. Art Fund. Same date range, January 12th to February 9th. Beginning balance 0, ending balance 0.
Did a lot of great work. And for clarity, that's a separate account. That's why we have to report on it. It's a whole separate account that was started for a grant in the past. And so we're considering ways to repurpose it and use it. So we're leaving it open for now. And that's why you see an account with $0 being reported on.
Yeah, because it is a restricted account and we'll probably end up using it for another grant if we're able to get one. BottleDrop account, same date range of January 12th to February 9th. Our beginning balance was $373.50. Bags dropped off were $31.90 was added to our account. No expenses. Our balance as of the 9th was $405.40.
All right. Any questions?
So I'm out of blue bags. You guys have any?
Oh, Brooklyn came with the blue bag question. Bernie, how would you like people to get in touch to get some bags?
They need to email me either at treasure@stjohnspdx.org, that email, or the other one that you guys have published out there, my personal one, should be up on the website.
So treasure@stjohnspdx.org. That'd be the best bet. And then you can
meet with
Bernie.
And then I'll Yeah, I need your name and address and that you're wanting bags and I'll drop them off.
Easy. Anything else for the good of the order? Yeah, please go ahead. If you don't mind coming up here so the Zoom can hear you.
I'm the Sunset Manager here at George Middle School, and we are having an event that's open to anybody who wants. March 28th, which is a Friday. It's the Friday of spring break from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you want to get your taxes done for free, we will help you out with that. And I sent you the flyer in
Yeah,
the
I can
info
put it in
at,
the meeting recap.
and I've got it on every social I could find. So you can call the school and ask for me, all the things.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yep. But it's free. And so Orco's been doing it for a while, and the last couple of years I've had staff members from here ask if I had, and I sent them to the free tax thing from Orco, and they loved it. They came back with couldn't say enough good things about it. And this year I get to do it here for whoever wants it done.
Cool.
Not
All right.
limited to school people or anybody.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll be remiss if I don't say host a block party. Paul Rippey will get in touch with you. Go to our website, stjohnspdx.org, host a Safer Together block party. And with that, we'll close out the February general meeting.
A motion to close the meeting.
Whoa. We are past time, so their motion is not required. But I'll, you know what, fine. You want a motion? I'll let you motion. Duncan motions. Ashley, you want to second that? She seconds that. Anybody opposed? I didn't think so. Meeting's closed at 8:48 p.m. Everybody have a great evening. Thanks for being here.
Good job.
Thanks for bearing with all of the so much content at this meeting here.
There's a lot of content, yeah.